Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Game BCN 6 Masterclass. Today with Sandro Bernabé. I'm Oscar Soun, Game BCN Program Manager. Please leave your questions here in the YouTube channel so we can answer, Sandro can answer you after the session. And follow us in social media just to keep informed about all the sessions that we are doing and anything else that you can be interested in. So without making you waste more time, I just leave you with Sandro.
All right. I think we might have a bit of delay between what I say and your answers. So I'll keep that in mind because at some point I will ask you some questions. So I'll give you time to answer on the chat. But anyways, let's start. Hello everyone. Sorry for this little delay. Obviously, like this happens when we stream live. But yeah, let's go to the meeting itself. Today I'm gonna talk about a little bit about level design. I'm gonna do an introduction to this topic. I don't know you guys how familiar you are with level design. Not everyone is aware of what level design is, so I think it's important to know what this department or what this specialty is about within the game industry. So yeah, I'm gonna make an introduction, and then later on, after an introduction, I'll explain a little bit about some basic concepts about level design, just so everyone understands the basics of this topic. Then I will go ahead and explain a little bit what's the process of creating levels, which in the end is what we are here for, like the level designers. I will go through the development process and how we can adapt to how can we adapt this process depending on where we are. After that, I also I have a couple of bonus track sections depending on how much time left we have, which are just different topics related to level design. That I like to talk about because I think they are very important and not everyone knows about them. And I think if you want to be like a level designer, a professional level designer, we should all know about these topics. You'll see me looking at the right or left. I don't know what side you guys see me looking at, but it's just like double checking the YouTube chat, just in case, like I don't know, like the stream blue or something. So yeah. All right. So first of all, I'm gonna explain a little bit who I am, so you guys have a little bit of context of my career on how I started and everything. As most people in my on my time, I started I started studying computer engineering at Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. So to be a software developer, but then I realized when I was studying there, I had a couple courses related to video games, and I loved it. And I said, okay, that's what I wanna be doing when I graduate. So yeah, I decided to go that route. And on 2010, I joined Big World 3D, which was a small company in my town, my hometown, where I started working as a game developer. Okay, yeah, my head is on our right. Okay, cool. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I started working as a game developer there, working with Unity. It was Unity 2.5, I believe. So it's been quite a while since then. And then next year, I went to Digital Legends, a company focused on mobile and handheld consoles, located in Barcelona. And within a special group, they wanted to try the market with what they call 4x4, which consisted on 4 people working on projects for 4 months, just to quickly test the market, especially on mobile. In the end, it wasn't neither 4 people nor 4 months of development, but it was it was a good a quick way of testing the market with different projects. And it was there working in Digital Legends where I realized I liked more what my teammate was doing, which was the game designer that was creating levels, than my own work. So I said, this cannot happen. Like I want to create those levels. I want to know how to do it. So then when that happened, I started looking for master degrees here, first in Barcelona, and then in Spain. But I saw there were no specialized level design master degrees. They were either focused on programming or art, or 3D art. So and that I didn't want to study neither of those. So yeah, I had to look abroad, and then I saw a really cool program in Texas, in Dallas, which was in the end the master I ended up doing, the master in game design specialization, specialized in level design at the GitHub at SMU. And yeah, I was there for 2 years and a half. I cannot stress how much I learned during that time. But yeah, like when I finished, I said to myself, I think I want to go back to Spain. I wanna take all that knowledge I've gathered for 2 years, and I wanna apply it in a Spanish company. So yeah, I saw Tequila Works. Well, I applied to Tequila Works, and I was fortunate to join them at 2015. And I work on Rhyme. I don't know if you guys have played or you know what game it is, but it's a pretty cool game. You guys should check out at some point. And yeah, I that was my first job as a level designer. And after 3 years and completing Rhyme, I got contacted by Ubisoft Barcelona, and I joined them at 2018. First as a level designer, then 6 months later as a senior level designer, where I've been there since then. So that's me, but that tells nothing about me. Who I really am is I'm a Magic the Gathering regular player for many years, with a top 16 GP finish and a national top 8 competitor. I'm still playing a bunch of League of Legends games. Not very good, because I never reached platinum, but it doesn't mean you cannot be good at everything. And League of Legends, like I play a lot, but I'm not as good as other people to reach platinum at least. I used to play CSGO, and I reached Legendary Eagle. And at some point, I also played World of Warcraft, and I'm overall a shooter and racing game aficionado. Why I'm saying this? Because in the end, if you want to be part of the industry, what you have to be that's something not everyone will say and not everyone might agree on, but I think it's really key. Like, if you want to be especially a designer, you need to be a gamer, because it's basically it's impossible to be to come up with new ideas without taking references from other games. And in order to take references from other games, you need to play those games. So yeah, like that's really important, and that's why I like to mention that at the beginning. All right, but let's talk. Let's stop stop talking about me, and let's go to the topic, which is level design. The first thing I want to do is just to define some concepts and definitions, because not everyone knows what level design is. In fact, if you ask my mom, she cannot tell you exactly what I do, because it kind of like level design kind of like gets hidden within the game design department, but there are very different topics within design. And level designer, like, it's clearly one of the quite a unique one, and it differs a lot from a pure game design, for example, or technical design. So yeah, what is level design? So if we have to define what level design or what a level designer does, yeah, I can go ahead and check the internet, and it will say, yeah, it's a practical application of the core game systems and mechanics that creates compelling and challenging gameplay. All right, so what is that? Like, I'm still confused. Like, can you tell me, like, with plain words, what level design is? Yes, level design is building levels for games. That's the plain answer, the short answer we all were looking for. Yeah, like, we are in charge of creating those layouts, those maps, those levels where players will use the features and characteristics of the game design, and they will be applied within a 3D environment or a 2D environment, depending on the game. So let's talk about a little bit of metrics. And for this section, I would like your participation. I'm gonna now do some questions, and I would love for you to answer on the YouTube chat, because metrics is a really important concept, and everyone needs to understand it correctly if they want to be level designers, or at least if they want to understand level design. Okay, let's assume the editor we work with has units, obviously, and 100 editor units are equal to 1 meter in real life. So now I'm gonna ask you. So I'm part of your studio. I'm part of your game development, and I come to you guys and say, okay, this is the car we need for our game, and I thought about making it 400 editor units long, so basically 4 meter long. What do you guys think? Is it the right size? Do you guys think it's too short, too long? What do you guys good answer me? Like, please answer on the chat. Let me know on the chat what you guys could answer me. Do you guys think this car being 4 meter long is the right size? Is okay? Is it not okay? Is it too short, too long? What would you guys could tell me? I'm gonna give a little bit of time for you to answer. This concept, this topic is very important. Metrics is very key within the LD department. So it's I cannot stress how important this concept is, and to understand how to apply it and how to use it correctly. All right, let me read some of the answers. It depends on what it is used for. It depends on the game. Depends on the overall scale. Depends on the size of the wall, of your entire meshes. It depends on the model. Depends on the scale you've set up. Depends on the environment. I think it's a good size because it's close to the real size of a car. Yeah, scale, but 4 meters should be fine. All right. So I've luckily I've heard something that it's good, but let's see. Depends on the size of the road, level, interaction with the environment. Okay, like speaking of the road, after this car, then I come to you guys and say, okay, so this is the idea for me to put the car on. Like, this is the street we will use the car on, and it's just a normal street, one directional street, and I would like the pavement to be 500 editor unit wide, or 5 meter wide. And then I say, okay, like, I want to put that car there. Do you guys what do you guys think about this width? Is it okay? Is it not okay? Like the same question, but now with the street. Is this size okay? Does it do you guys think it's good enough? It fits within our game? Let me know what you guys think. What you guys could answer me. I'm gonna keep reading some of the answers. If the game is following a realistic scale, it should be good. This is related to the car. I would say that the size of the car depends. Let's see what else you guys think. I don't know if 4 meters is okay. If I don't know, what are you basing it on? And compared with the size of what other objects? Okay, like this is okay. Here we are putting a little bit of context. Okay, so this is the street where the car will be used on. How you drive it? It's a drifting game. The car will move straight or sideways. Test should be made, but it's okay in a realistic scale, enough for 2 cars. I believe a 4 meter car is too big for this road. All right. So I've got some answers. If it's a one-way street, it's okay, I guess, if we are aiming to realism. All right. If you guys asked me these questions, this would be my answer. No idea. I have no idea what to answer. Why? Because we are missing a key element on the equation, which is the hero, like the main character. Why we need the main character to establish how long a car should be, or how long or how wide a street should be? Because in the end, we need everything turns around the main character. The main character defines metrics. Why? Because it makes no sense to talk about a 4 meter long car if our main character is 3 meter long and 2 meter wide. You guys see that they don't match. Like, obviously, like some of you mentioned that depending on the game, or depending if we aim for realism or not, that's a little bit, you guys already are like taking into account a bit of that element. But you guys should always have the main character as a reference for metrics. It doesn't matter if a car is 4 meter long or 100 meter long. It will make sense if it's if it's sized based on the character size. Why do we define metrics based on or relative to the main character? Because this gives you like a couple benefits, which is you can adapt it very well. What does it mean? If you know that, for example, let's say a regular wall is twice the size of the main character, at some point during the development, if you guys, for some reason, for any reason, you guys need to change the character size, then you will need to redo all the metrics in the sense that you don't need to calculate, okay, how long or how tall the new wall needs to be. You guys already have it because it's relative to the main character. So it's easier to translate or to keep the metrics cohesive even if there is a change. And also it makes it very scalable. Why? Because like you can add new characters that have metrics related or relative to the main character, and everything will still be working. So you guys don't need to worry about now this character does not fit because I created my door frame 1.5 meter wide, and I didn't take into account that this would be I don't know, like I created this new character that is 2 meter wide and it doesn't fit. You wouldn't have this problem. Obviously, like sometimes there are shortcuts, not shortcuts, but you don't need to rely on the character size to define the metrics, because if you aim for realism, you can use let's say real life units, because they are already relative to ourselves, to human beings. Because obviously, like if you aim to create a house, realistic house, you obviously won't make it I don't know, like 30 meter long or 30 meter tall, excuse me. So if you aim for realism, you guys can, I guess, get away without establishing metrics relative to the main character. And yeah, like also like creating and defining metrics relative to the main character, it establishes a good base for gameplay. Just imagine Super Mario. Just imagine if they didn't do this. They didn't define metrics relative to the character. They would have a hard time establishing the gameplay, because they would have to always keep in mind all the variables, all the sizes they established, because they need to make sure like there is no weird metric that prevents the gameplay from functioning. If you, like for example in Super Mario, like if the single jump is twice the size of the character, that's going to be this way until the end of the game development. If you want to create a double jump, it's easier to do. You don't need to remember, okay, like the single jump was 2 meters tall. Like you don't need to do that. Like it establishes a good base for gameplay. There is let me read a little bit on the chat, just in case I miss questions. I encourage you guys to ask questions. I don't mind stopping halfway through the presentation to make sure I can cover your questions. Obviously, at the end of the presentation, there will be time for questions, but I think it's better if we like cover some questions as we move along. Small road, there is a car park. Okay, it seems there are no questions. Fine, let's move on then. All right. Another basic concept in level design, context. Okay, now I'm gonna again ask your participation. I'm gonna explain. Again, I come to you guys with a cool idea for a level, and I'm just gonna explain it. And you guys need to let me know what you guys think about the level, the idea I've got for a level. So yeah, like let's say we are developing a first-person shooter, and I say, okay, let's have. I've got an idea. I would love to have a level where we start like in the middle of a bridge, but there is a cinematic and the bridge collapses. We end up. We end up in the water. We need to, like, the cinematic leads you to the shore of the river, and then from there you can see some enemies, and then you start beating them down. Then you get a car, and then you start driving by the river, and then you need to avoid some obstacles, and you need to avoid some enemies that are trying to take you down. You reach the downtown, and when you reach there is an explosion that the ground opens apart, and then you end up on the sewer, on a ruined metro station. Then you get the let's say the rail where the metro goes along, and then you start running because the fire is catching you. Like, there are chain explosions, and you need to escape. You run as fast as possible, and then you end up reaching a safe point where you can get some ammo. You feel your health again, and then you've reached another metro station. You get out of the metro station, but then there is a boss there. Like, there is an enemy, a big enemy that is waiting for you there. And then there is a big combat there. You need to use bazookas. You need to use grenades to take him down. And in the end, you take it down, and there is a cinematic, and you get out of there. All right, that's the idea. And I'm gonna ask you guys, and you need to answer me. What do you guys think about this level? Do you guys think it's cool? Do you guys you don't like it? Based on what you said, it seems very exciting. It's not. It feels it's boring. What would you guys answer me? Crazy gameplay scenarios. Yeah. Obviously, like I was making that up. Like, obviously, I was making it up as I was explaining the gameplay. But obviously, like, you get the idea. Pretty much their on rail chapter from Half-Life 1. I absolutely made that up. So I didn't take any game as a reference. So it was all made up on the fly. It sounds super hectic, too much in my opinion. Let's see what people think. It's all over the place. Challenging but very visual. For me, it is like random, all over the place, and the pace is wrong for me. Depends on presentation, visual communication, engagement. It's very linear. Whether it's good or bad depends on very many aspects of the game. Is this an Uncharted reference? It is not. It's definitely not. But I get why you guys like think this way. All right. No possible to answer if it's good or bad. Okay, like that one, that answer is the best one. Why? Because what you need to ask me, or you guys need to ask yourself when designing or when coming up with ideas for a level is, what are the requirements for this level? Like every single level might work in a vacuum, but when you put it within a context, which is the game progression, it might or may not make sense. So, for example, does the player know all the mechanics? For example, just imagine I come up with a level that requires players to double jump all the time. All the time you need to double jump, but players have not learned double jump yet. But you are asking them to do advanced double jump. You have advanced double jump situations. It makes no sense then. Like it could be like the cooler level about double jumping, but if players don't know how to double jump, it makes it frustrating and it makes it bad. Is this level is this a level with a big boss, with a final boss? Why is that a good question to ask ourselves? Because that's gonna if when there are final bosses or bosses within a level, you usually build up for that level. Like you introduce maybe the boss at the beginning of the level. Maybe you see part of their abilities halfway through. So you have to keep in mind that there is a boss, what that boss is gonna be like, and then like design or adapt your level based on that. What is the player doing in the next level? It's really important to know what's going to be next and what's been before. Why? Because let's say you have the level I described you earlier. It's very let's say it's very intense, isn't it? What if the next level is another intense level that there is a bunch of action? What if the previous level was also like very intense? That could stress the player, and they need to, like, players need to have a bit of a rest. I'm gonna explain with more detail later, but you need to know what's coming next to know if you need to prepare the player for something. Let's say the next level is the level with advanced double jump situations. What does that mean? That you need to teach players how to double jump in your level, because you need to prepare them for next level. So it's really important. It's really important to ask ourselves all these questions, to have the right context to put our level in. Are we introducing new mechanics to the player, for example? Like as I was mentioning, like if we ask the player to double jump, we later on we need to introduce that mechanic to the player, for example. Or like maybe like there are narrative constraints, like we need to, I don't know, the last or the previous level finishes within I don't know, like in the suburbs or in the downtown of a city. It would be weird to have the level happening in the country, you know, like or within a or underground. Like there will be a jump within the narrative, within the story that it's very hard to justify. So you also need to keep in mind all those constraints. Basically, what we are asking ourselves is, what are the constraints to frame my level in, so it makes sense and it does, and I can take fully advantage of what I put inside of that level. So that's that's why it's really important to have the context in mind every time we want to design a new level. And pacing. I briefly talked about pacing already, but basically what I was mentioning, we cannot have, like, even action games cannot be like this intense all the time. Like there is no way a game will be this intense all the time, every level. because players need to rest for a bit. Like you cannot be, you cannot ask the player to be completely focused on a high action gameplay for too long, because like there will be a point it will be too much. They will feel overwhelmed. They that might cause players to make mistakes, and they will get frustrated. And the other way around, you cannot have even slow pace games need to have some action in a way or another. They have to have peaks of intensity, so players like don't get bored, don't like they get engaged again, and they want to keep moving on, they want to keep playing. So basically, like it's important to keep players in a, let's say, in a flow where, like, it's basically like a channel where players like fight between anxiety and boredom. Like you move them within this safe spectrum where players don't get too anxious. They don't get stressed, but they don't get bored either. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And again, like you have to complement. That's not the word I'm looking for. You need to combine context with pacing. That I couldn't find the word. You need to combine these concepts because as I was saying, like if your previous level was really high on intensity, you need to design a level which, yeah, that it can be, it might be action, but it cannot rely so much on long periods of high intense action, because then there will be a point where players will give up. So yeah, maybe it's important to say, okay, like the the previous level was a final boss level. Why don't we take advantage of this level? Why don't we take the opportunity to use this level to introduce more narrative? Like maybe we explain a bit of the story. We need time to explain the game story. So why don't we use this level and we focus it on more like explain the story more than like forcing the player to be in action. So it's really important to have this in mind. And another, this is the last basic concept, is blocking. All right, blocking, like for those of you who already are LDs aficionados or level designers, you might have heard of what blocking is. But I cannot stress how important this is, because actually this is going to be the main tool we are going to use for our levels. Let me before moving on to this section, I'm gonna read the chat just in case I missed some questions. Blah, 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 blah. It's basically Half-Life 1. No, again, like I made that up. Level design is like music. The chorus is the most important part. The rest are part to look, listen, and build up to the chorus. Yep. That's a good analogy. Do cutscenes count as pauses between action filler scenarios? Yes and no. Yes, as long as they are followed by low pace sections. Like if you have a 30 seconds cutscene, like the cutscene, like the cutscene itself also like builds up anxiety or boredom in that sense, because if it's a cutscene with intense action, like let's say like there is explosion and you need to run and there are a bunch of sounds, effects and stuff, that's not lowering the pace down at all. Like that does not lower the pace. Like you need to like to to follow like those cutscenes. Like you need to like obviously a lower pace cutscene, or because that might be that explosion cutscene might be the climax of that high intense action section. But from there, you need a cooldown period. You need something like a bit slower to cool down the player, to give the player time to relax, to analyze, to recover, to get again ready to the action. So yeah, like cutscenes per se are not enough. You need to also like add cooldown sections where the player just can freely move. For example, just investigate if there is some treasure chest to collect and stuff like that. And when they are ready, they can move on to the next to the action. Even battle lows which is tough as nails has some resting places. Yeah, that's right. Like obviously, even in within an intense section, there might be like places where players can hide and rest, where they can feel safe, be there for some seconds or like as much time as they need, and then move on, continue with the section. So yeah, like it's really important to like an action game doesn't mean it needs to be 100% high intense action, like even I don't know, like even like action movies, like if you like we can relate this to the movie industry, to the film industry. Action movies don't well usually are not from minute 0 to minute 90 pure action. Like that doesn't happen. Like just think about, for example, like the Fast and Furious franchise. Like they are not all the time like shooting at each other or driving cars at high speed. They do have some obviously dialogue sometimes to rest, just so they can build up for the next action section. So it's a good way of looking at it. Can we assume that those pauses are like some kind of reward for players? I don't think they are not rewards. You cannot. That's like rewards are something that you give players for doing something, but just that's the opposite. You are giving players something that they need, so they don't have to do anything. Those pauses are something they're required to you to keep playing your game. All right, so let's move to blocking. As I said, it's very important. It's key to every level designer because it's our starting point. As you will see, guys, later on the presentation, we will always start building our levels with blocking, which like you will guys have heard the term of blocking out, which basically is just creating spaces, 3D spaces or 2D spaces, depending on the game, with very simple geometry, usually boxes. But as you can see, there might be some more complex shapes. But usually with boxes, you can pretty much build everything. And in order to create a good blocking out, it's really important to create our Lego kit or our tile set kit. What's that? A tile set or a Lego kit is just a set of pieces that you can use to put together your level in a basic shape. There will be people that maybe say, okay, but I have BSP for that. Like I use Unreal 4, and BSP is it's very 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 let's say very easy to use, and it allows me to do any shape I want. So why would I create a set of pieces when I have BSP. All right, let me just show you like a quick video comparing how easy is to use BSP and how fast you can modify existing parts of your layout with BSP and with a tile set. The first part you'll see is BSP, and the second part is tile sets. Then, after watching the video, I will explain why I don't like as much BSP for blocking out levels. So we have like this is like a corridor with a corner, and we decided that it's not long enough, so we need to expand the first part of the corridor. So we need obviously like to move, let's say, the corner, the second part of the corridor, to make that the first part longer. So obviously we get the different BSPs, we grab, we move it, we translate it, or we extrude the different faces if needed. We need to obviously make sure we have the grid enabled, or otherwise we cannot ensure like we are following the metrics we've defined previously. And now let's see like with a tile set how difficult this is. So basically we need to just grab the different pieces, duplicate some. Obviously we don't need to worry about not following the metrics, because obviously the floor has the right size. So duplicating that piece will, as long as there is a grid, it will follow the metrics. So, and it's way faster. So why do I like tile set over BSP? First, because BSP at some point, like sometimes, like having freedom is not a good thing. With BSP, you have the option to create complex or more complex shapes, which in the end it's gonna complicate your development. Like obviously it might get corrupted if you want to modify it, depending on like the shape you gave. Like you need to start over. You cannot ensure like you're following the metrics. Let's say that corridor, the minimum distance is let's say 5 meters long. That's the minimum distance a corridor can have in our game, but we need to expand it. With a tile set, it's a matter of just duplicating the piece, the 5 meter long piece we have for the ground, and then you have a 10 meter long corridor. Whereas with BSP, you need to expand the floor, and you need to make sure it's 10 meter long, because obviously you can leave it 9 meter long or 11 meter long, and that's going to create a cascade effect. If you make a mistake, it's going to create a cascade effect on your level that you have to redo a bunch of things. So how we build a useful tile set, because there is something very important to know, like a bad built tile set, it's gonna be a nightmare. Why? Because it will make sure, like that tile set will make sure you don't follow any metrics. It's gonna create a nightmare, and you don't want to be part of that. So it's you need to make sure like you build, like your company or your designers working with the artist, you create a useful tile set. And how you do that? Again, following the basis of creating the metrics related relative to the character. As long as you do that, there is very little room for error. And again, before creating the tile set, it's important that you design the metrics first. You cannot create, for example, like these door frames. You cannot create these walls. You cannot create these floors. You cannot create any of those pieces if you don't know the metrics, if you don't agree with the metrics. If you start creating pieces for the sake of creating them, that will not help you. Just imagine, as we said, we have corridors in our game and we want them to be 5 meter long minimum. What does this mean? If you create a floor that is 3 meter long, for example, because you say, okay, like, I don't know, like I'm just gonna make a 3x3 piece for the ground. What does it mean when you then you want to create a corridor? You don't have the right piece to create them. You have a 3x3 piece instead of a 5x3 piece. So that forces you to overlap two pieces, which obviously, like by itself, it's already like something not ideal because it's not efficient. You are using two pieces whereas you could use one. But it also like might introduce errors because like, okay, like, yes, I'm gonna like create a 5x3 floor with two pieces, but what if you don't like align them correctly? That's gonna be like a 6x3, a 4x3 floor. That's gonna introduce a bunch of errors that you guys don't wanna have. So yeah, okay, so fine. We know that we need metrics. We know that we need to take into account the context. Also for pacing matters. We know that we need a tile set. So okay, let's move on to building levels, shall we? But how do we build them? Like, do I go straight into the editor and I start putting stuff together? You can do that, but if the more wild you go when building levels, the harder will become to reach a point where you are happy with the result. What does that mean? That you are gonna like game development is an iterative process by nature. What does that mean? That the first thing you do probably won't get it into the game. You need to revise it. You need to iterate. You need to modify. You need to polish, and yada and yada. So the more structure you build your level, the easier will be to iterate on it. If you don't have a process and you start doing things as you think it's good for the level, you will probably work more than anyone else because you'll have to throw away a bunch of stuff, redo it, throw it again, redo it, and so on and so forth. So let's see how we properly build levels to minimize the amount of work we need to redo at each stage. So obviously here we are going to cover the whole process from creation to shipping. And the first step within building a level is not building a level. It's not in the editor. It's actually like drawing the level. It's paper design. Why it's important to use paper as a first step? Because we, like as I said, the goal for us is to minimize throwing away stuff. If we start with paper is easy to redo. Okay, like you can draw quickly, like a quick draft of what you have in mind, and that already will tell you a bunch of stuff. It will tell you, like, if you're completely wrong on your idea, you can tell already on the paper design. You guys don't need to go into the editor to prove that something will not work. And it's easier to do like in a 5-minute draft in a paper than in a 1 week work in the editor. So yeah, let's try to have first like to prove the idea in paper. on paper. So when we are happy with the overall idea, then we can move into the editor. So what I like to have in my paper design, there here, like I can tell there are different ways of doing it, but what I like to have in my paper design, first of all, I like to have a summary. What does the summary have? First, like let's say like a synopsis of what the level is about, like as if you watch a trailer of a movie. That could be the summary. Like, okay, like we reach this, we start the game in this point in the downtown, and then we move here, we encounter some enemies, then there is this thing happening, blah blah blah. That's the first thing. Why this is important? Because again, like if there are like narrative constraints or narrative requirements, you can already tell if you are like fulfilling those requirements with the summary. Like you can say, hey, like here this cannot start in the downtown because we finished the previous level of I don't know, on a harbor. So it makes no sense to start here. Okay, like you don't need to create the level to realize, okay, like this makes no sense. So you might have it in paper, and you can red flag these things head on. Then I would love to have an overall map. Basically, an overall map, just it's a top-down usually map where you have the basic shape of the level you wanna create, the level you are designing. And it doesn't need to be like super specific. Like you can say like player starts here, player ends here. Here there will be something. These are like basically the main paths to lead that way. Then you go and you create a set of breakdown maps, which are more detailed maps of sections of your level, where you add a more detailed gameplay. Let's say, for example, on the picture, you can see, all right, player starts here. Like, let's say this is a section. I hope you guys can see my cursor. Let's say this is a section. Okay, like this is the player start. This is the path. There will be here some enemies. Here, maybe like, let's say like there is a treasure chest. We want to add those things. Obviously, it doesn't need to be like 100% specific. Like you don't need to tell, okay, there will be 4 enemies, 2 of type A and 2 of them, and the other 2 from type B. Let's say you don't need to be that specific, but you wanna tell whoever like you present this document to, that there will be like an encounter on that area. So you do that for each section of your level, and then in the end you can add some references for the environment, for example, for the mood, for the setting. Like so artists that see your document can already understand your vision, like what you have in mind for that level. You can see the cursor. Perfect. Awesome. And then obviously you can have other optional stuff like setting, when does this happen, like for example what time of day, because maybe lighting artists need to work on this, so they know if this happens at dawn, at midday, at night. And maybe you can explain what characters will be. You can sort of put what enemy types there will be there, just in case there is obviously this in small companies this won't happen, but maybe there is in bigger companies, maybe there is a director who want to know, he wants to take a look at your level, and obviously they might not know all the details, so it's good for them to have the character list there, so they understand what the type A enemy is and stuff. And you can add maybe extra narrative stuff if it's needed. If the level is very narrative oriented, or the game is very it's heavy on narrative, you can add more on your level design paper. Then we have the paper design. We've shown the paper design to whoever needs to validate it, to approve it. We are all happy with it. Then yes, now we move to the editor. And why we move now? Because at least we know the idea, the overall idea, the high level idea for this level makes sense. We all agree with that idea, and then we can move on. And what do? We go to the white box section with the white box stage, which consists of creating first, it's the blockout, as I mentioned before. Like, this is where level designers block out the level. And what do we do now? Like, on the white box stage, we don't add details. The only thing we want to prove is that the overall size and the overall shape of the level makes sense. Why do we do it this way? Why don't we add detail? We don't add detail, but because just imagine adding a bunch of details on your level, then you prove it, you test it, and then you realize, all right, this is too small. This level is too small. It doesn't have enough space, enough room for the player, or like to fit all the gameplay we intended, or the opposite. It's too big. There are too long distances, and we don't want players to traverse for so long. Just imagine adding a bunch of enemies already, just a bunch of detail layout. What that will cost you is to throw away all that stuff and start over, and that's what we don't want. So what we are going to focus on at the white box stage is to just the big shapes. Just we want to make sure metrics are correct, overall size is correct. It makes sense. All the different sections we've created, like there is this room, this other room, like we connected with a corridor. It makes sense this way. You don't need to add anything on the rooms. You don't need to add enemies. You might add basic gameplay, but very, very, very basic gameplay. Let's say, I don't know. I mean, really, you don't need any gameplay, to be honest. You can add some really basic gameplay, but I would not go for anything crazy. Like, just even like let's say you have an elevator. You have to pick up an elevator. You should not script an elevator at the white box stage. What you should be doing is reach the bottom floor, grab the character with a debug mode, and fly to the top of the upper floor. That's more than enough. Like, you don't actually need to like script and develop much gameplay, because that's not what you want to be doing. You want to check that the overall size you intended, the overall shape you thought makes sense. Once that's done, that everyone is comfortable with the space and the sizes, then we can move. Let me say, but there will be people that say, but blockout means can we start implementing this stuff? Why don't maybe an artist says, let me add a couple textures, a couple materials to this thing. No, white box is blocking out. That's it. Do not get lost with extra stuff at this stage, because this stage is where like it creates the foundation of your level. It creates the basis of your level. The better you do it, or the more correct you do it, the better the result will be, or the easier it will be to get that result. So let me now show you some examples, because I think there is I think it's in October. Yes, like there is something on Twitter that people share like for a month some white box on some layouts, and I took the opportunity to get some of those. And let me ask you guys, or let me explain you guys, why this is a white box level or not, or why these examples are good examples or bad examples. First of all, this one, like it looks white boxy because it has a bunch of like debug textures and stuff. But this is not a white box level. This level is not at white box stage. Why? Why it's not like that? First, as you can see, there are enemies already. You don't need those. You have very detailed meshes, for example, which are these cars with actual textures and actual materials. This is not what we want. We have details that do not matter at all for the game, for the gameplay. Like these tubes are not important for the level. These ones are not important for the level. That's not part of the white box. We have real meshes here with a fence. We have, these are like more, let's say, in progress cars, but still this is and it may sound silly, but this is too specific. These cars are too specific for a white box stage. Why? Because someone has spent time to model this car. But what if in the end we don't use this car because it doesn't fit with the cover we need? Someone has spent a day, 2 days, an hour, it doesn't matter, to create this piece of art that will not go to the game. And we could have avoided that. So that's why, like, we need to understand what white box means. For example, you can see like these blue boxes, like these as covers. These ones are totally fine. They are just plain cubes, like just very very basic cubes that you can duplicate and put together. Like that's what you should be doing. Like that's the kind of detail you need to be doing at the white box stage. This is a good example. As you can see here, like there is very little detail. Everything that you can see serves a purpose gameplay wise. Like everything you see here makes sense in terms of gameplay, so it's the minimum you need. This is what we said about basic gameplay. Like if you have already scripted like these jumpers, let's say, that's fine, but you should not waste time on these jumpers. I mean, maybe like if it's really like a pillar of your game, like let's say this is a Unreal Tournament map or a Quake map where these jumpers exist and they are very often used to go from one side to another, then that's fine to have those, but that's about it. That's about it. Like as you can see, there is just the basic geometry. We are checking just the overall shape, basic shape. Does it make sense? Can you go from one side to another? That's all you want to accomplish at white box stage. Here is another picture from the same level. Like here you can see like the steps. That's fine. Like we are not gonna be so picky. But in reality, you don't need those steps. Like if it were a slope, it could serve the purpose. But that's fine. Like you don't need to be like as picky. But the less detail or extra detail you add, the better your level will be built. And another example, as you can see, like now I'm going to show you like this is the white box, like basic geometry. And because sometimes people think that in white box, if you don't add details, those details will not come later. It's like if I don't put it already, If I don't put it right away, it will make it into the level, and that's not true. Like here you can see a block out, and here you can see the final states, the final product. You can see there are if I go back and forth, you guys can see like there are changes because it's expected. It's impossible to create a level, a white box level, that will be exactly the same on the final stage when we finish the level. But you can already tell that yes, like it has the same overall shape. You guys can tell, okay, like there is the two levels, the rounded room here, the upper floor, the openings. You guys can tell this, like these two pictures belong to the same level. This is the exterior of that level. As you can see, like very basic geometry. There is nothing extra really. Like you see, like there is no detail. Then when you add to the final level, then you add extra stuff. For example, like just like take a look at this axis. This one, it wasn't on the initial white box, but maybe during testing they realized they needed an access to the upper floor. But that's fine doing it this way. Like you can add extra stuff if needed. But just imagine the other way around. You add this slope, this axis, and you start doing creating detail, adding detail to this slope. You create a mesh, a unique mesh for it, and then you realize you don't need it. You need to throw away a bunch of resources that you could actually like save, really. And definitely like when on smaller companies, when usually like people need to hurry up to finish stuff up, it's really important to save as much time and resources as possible. So, and this is I have mixed. Obviously, like there are some elements that don't belong to what the white box stage here. Like you have enemies, you have even FX. Like, do you think this barrel is important to check if the overall shape is correct? Not at all. Not at all. Like, do you think like this green grass is important? Do you think like having the car with red lights is important to check if the gameplay we have in it will work? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So just imagine like that. In the end, we don't have a car turned on. You've spent time doing this, implementing this stuff, and in the end, it will make it to the level. So yeah, okay. Then we've already established the overall shape, the overall size. We know more or less where we want to lead the player to on our level. Now it's the time to add gameplay. Here now we add some details related to the gameplay. Obviously, if we need covers, for example, if we need more detailed covers, because it's let's say a Gears of War game where you like there is a bunch of cover gameplay. You start adding those covers in a more detailed fashion. You implement the gameplay. You start adding the enemies. You implement their behavior. It doesn't need to be completely polished. For example, like the example of the elevator, you implement the elevator. It doesn't need to be completely polished, but you need to experience the gameplay you intended for the level. At this point, at the end of this stage, the level needs to be 100% playable. What does it mean? It means that you need to be able to load the level, play the level from start to finish without using debug cheats, and you need to have the intended gameplay already in the level. At this stage, it's okay. Like it's not ideal, but it's okay to add some visual assets, especially assets that don't belong to the gameplay area. Let's say you have a skyline, like a bunch of, or you have in the background a bunch of skyscrapers or some buildings, and you're going to start adding some, or the artist going to start adding some textures because they want to know how they will look and stuff. That's fine. But the more you add at this stage in terms of visual art, the more likely that stuff will need to be thrown away. Because why? Like, let's say, just imagine like on the picture we have this let's say bridge that connects two buildings. Just imagine if an artist comes to you and says, hey, I've got the materials ready, I've got the textures, I've got a bunch of stuff on the bridge, it's looking so cool. You test out the gameplay and you decide, hey, you know what, I don't think like the game, the level is too long, we need to cut a section, and the section that we are having least fun about is this bridge, so we need to cut it. So you added a bunch of details inside that no one will see. Again, like I know I'm repeating myself a bunch, but it's really important for you guys to understand when it's the right time to add stuff. And art, it's always the last thing you add on the level, because you don't want to start adding art until your team is happy with the gameplay inside. When you stop adding stuff on the level or removing stuff because of gameplay reasons. And once you guys test the level and everyone is happy with the result, like you play it from start to finish, obviously there might be some bugs here and there, but overall you can play pretty well the level, and you got the feeling of the level, and you guys are happy with. Then we go to the visual stage. Here is when you add everything that needs to be on the level. All the visual assets, meshes, textures, materials, effects, sounds, anything. And while the artists are doing that, the designers finish polishing the level. Like if there are minor bugs, just adding dialogue lines and stuff, you can add them here. Why? Because now you don't need to modify the level at all. Like you are not, like the foundation and the structure, you are not changing anything of that at this stage. Let me see if you guys have asked any questions. Is it essential to know all the mechanics needed to design level, or can we define that a bit later? If that's something I've seen in the past, and I discourage everyone to do. Do not design a level if there is a mechanic not designed yet, because how do you know how the mechanic is going to work exactly? What if you, like, in the end, like, you design the level with that mechanic in mind, but that mechanic is not fully designed, and then all of a sudden it changes and it breaks the whole purpose of your level. Like, again, you need to redo stuff. We want to minimize extra work, and this like you are like increasing the chances of having to redo stuff if you don't wait until the mechanic is done. When do we know it's good enough? Who decides if the white boxing is good enough to continue with the detailing phase? I mean, this will depend on the company. Bigger companies have more people overseeing different areas of the game. And in those cases, it will be a director or a lead, which will you will present the level to them, and they will give feedback if there is any. And at some point, they will say, okay, that's good enough to continue. Obviously, it's good enough. That's a question you will never. I mean, at some point, like there is always room for improvement in a level, but at some point you need to move on, because obviously, like game companies are business companies in the end, and they have their budget, they have their schedules, they have their milestones. So in the end, you also need to balance the creative part, which is creating the level, with the business part, which is you need to finish this by this date. So yeah, in the end, like for bigger companies, that's who would approve or say, okay, this is good enough. In smaller companies, I guess is more of a quorum. Like everyone, like if everyone's agree that it's good enough, then you guys move on. It depends. Time is money. Yeah, time is money, definitely. All right, so now I'm going to show you. This is the thesis level from my master's degree. And I'm going to show you, there are two areas of this level. This level was based on Crysis 2. It uses the Crysis 2 mod to editor, basically, to create the level. And it has two parts, an interior and exterior, an office floor and the street area. And I'm going to show you, this is a video with screenshots, and it will show you how I built this level, and you'll see like the progress following the same rules or the same stages I showed you before. As you can see, like first, like let me talk through, because I guess it will be more important in the at the beginning. You have obviously like a very basic shape. This could be already white box. Just making sure the size is fine. It has a shape that fits the gameplay purposes. Here I added basic colors just to differentiate the different areas a bit better, because here I didn't have lighting yet set up, so it was to create this kind of differentiation. And here, as you can see, like I'm adding these blocks, which will be in the end different tables and office elements, but this gives me like already like a sense of space for my enemies to go through. Then obviously I start adding some enemies. Obviously, once I got the basic lighting set up, I went back to the normal textures. Obviously, adding more details, trying to work on here, like here, as you can see, like obviously after this one, I already iterated on the level on this section. Then I can move on and add obviously actual meshes, because in the end you need to add them. You iterate, you start adding more details, you work on a second pass of the lighting and stuff. And the same you'll see for the street, just basic geometry. As you can see that it's very basic, nothing really detailed, very little, just obviously like the streets. The big blocks are the buildings. Obviously there is a wall here, like, and it's important that there is a hole here, so I created the hole. But I like there is not even like this section, the underneath section created, because it's not important. It's just important where the hole is going to be. You'll see, like sometimes, yes, like I broke my rule here because I added some of these meshes, but this is kind of an exception, because this is a level from an existing game, so I have already those meshes I have available for me to use. So I'm not creating extra elements, or I'm not forcing someone to create these meshes for them for later, like throw them away, like for like this specific kind of levels, it's fine, but we should not overdo it. And you'll see here, like once the white box is created, I started adding the different enemies, adding more detail for gameplay wise for these enemies, adding at the end like the other sections, and then we start adding the different meshes. Obviously we start building, obviously we keep refining stuff, and then we move to add the different visual assets. And then as you can see from here to here, there is difference, obviously, but that makes sense. But it's better to start with a simple shape than we start with this more complex structure, than to realize that it doesn't work and you need to throw it away. And then you keep adding more details, then you do the second pass of lighting, and then you add the extra elements that are just like the debris and just the effects and just the visual details. So that's how everyone should build levels to minimize redoing stuff. But obviously, every company works different. This is a way of building levels. And what do you do if there is a company that works in a specific way? There is another one that works in another way. They have another process to follow. Just you adapt it. The good thing about this way of building levels is that it's very adaptable. There will be companies that will center the building process. There will be the building process will be very player centric or customer centric, whereas there are other companies which are more classic that adapt their building process is closer to what I described. When I say player centric, it means that instead of watching the stages of the level development as what do you have in the level, they do the question in a player centric way. They ask what kind of player can play this level at this stage. For example, like this level is playable for people within the project. That means they know the mechanics, they know what the game is about. They understand there are cheats. What does it mean? You don't need details, you don't need story, you don't need dialogues, you don't need stuff. Then there is another stage which is okay, this level can be played by someone from the company but not from the project. Okay, they know that you have to add all the gameplay and stuff. So there are different ways of approaching the level process or the level development, but in any case you can adapt what I described to any company, because in the end what I described is the logical way of building a level. So, because it's broken down in different stages. It's very easy to adapt those stages to the company needs. All right, that could be all for the building level process. Do you guys have questions before jumping to another topic? If there are any questions, I will let you guys write them in the chat for a minute or two, and we can discuss them. Is the progression the same throughout the entire level? What do you mean, Dr. Mufasa? If you don't mind, I'm gonna eat a bit. If you don't have any question, now I'll jump to the bonus track sections, which are just different topics within level design that I love personally, and I think they are very important to know. If there are no questions, I'll move on. All right, let's move on to player guidance. Again, I'm gonna need you guys to participate on this section, and I'm gonna ask you to. All right, so I'm gonna ask you guys to. So if you already started telling one part of the level, do you have to make sure that the entire level is in the same level of detail? Yeah, usually, unless it's a really long level, let's say like hour-long level, you should always keep the level in terms of stages equal. Like for example, it doesn't make sense if you have, let's say, 3 different sections in a level. It doesn't make sense to have the first section at visual stage, whereas the third section is in white box. That makes no sense. Why? Because in the end, you need to prove that the whole level is fun. Oh, there is a cat showing up. You need to prove that the entire level, the whole level is fun, and it fulfills the requirements. It has the intended gameplay and stuff. You cannot tell that. You cannot tell so and say so if you don't have the complete experience. Any specific tips for 2D level design? Not really, because like everything I said on the presentation applies to any kind of game. Like in fact, 2D games are somewhat easier to design, because obviously you don't need to worry about the third dimension. So that's actually like let's say like a benefit that 2D games have. How do you get the mechanics when you don't have any level design yet? Because I mean, when you design mechanics, you like what you're trying to prove, or what you're trying to get, is that dynamic, that interaction with that mechanic is fun per se. Like you don't need to actually like have examples, not examples, but specific examples to prove that that's fun. Obviously, like you can support like your mechanics with level sections, but let's say in Mario, they said, in Super Mario, they said, okay, jumping is fun, and then we're gonna make jumping as fun as possible, and that's what they did. Once they had that, they created the levels, and not the other way around. Oh yeah, you're welcome, Mufasa. I hope it makes sense. Next centric. All right. If there are no more questions, you can keep asking stuff, and at some point I will read them through and I will answer them. But now let's go ahead and talk about player guidance, which is something no not a lot of designers know about or know very little about, and I think it's one of the most important elements to know to create successful games. Now I'm gonna ask you again to answer a question. I'm gonna give you very little time to to see a slide, and I want you to tell me what color the valve is. I'm not gonna tell you anything else. I'm gonna give you a second to look at a picture and tell me what color the valve is. The valve. You can write the answers on the chat. I'll give you 30 seconds. It shouldn't take too long, or depending on the delay, I guess. We have a winner in terms of being the first one. Let's see if people get it. Okay, we have. All right. Danger color is a interesting way of describing it, but yeah. All right. All right. So red, maybe red. All right. Let me show you. Again, you guys were right. The valve was red. Cool. Moving to the next one. Now I'm gonna ask you something harder. Obviously, I hope you are not like cheating and pausing the stream to watch it with more time. Like the idea is not to have that time. I want you to tell me what you can read on the screenshot I'm gonna show you like for a second. Like you'll see a text. There is a screenshot from a level. You'll see a text. You guys need to tell me what you read. 3, 2, 1. What you guys read? I'm gonna do it one more time just in case I was too fast. Hope it wasn't too fast. Like I cannot tell obviously how you guys see the streaming. Maybe the quality is not as good. So all right, so there is an answer already. All right. All right. While you guys keep answering, I'm gonna obviously show you the picture. And yes, there are different texts, but I don't know if it's casualty or not. But you all looked at the same text, and obviously this is not a coincidence. Obviously, this is not a coincidence. This is definitely intended. You guys all read Eternal Flame. All right. My speed was good. Fine. All right. So you guys had basically like a split second to take a look at two different screenshots that you guys had never seen before, so you didn't know what to expect. But you guys were right on your answers. Why is that? That's because of player guidance. That's definitely because of player guidance. What they are? Basically, player guidances are techniques that are used to help players progress. And how they do that? They do it by drawing the player's attention to specific locations, to specific areas of the game, of the level. It's a way of guiding the player without telling them they are being guided, because there is nothing worse for a player than realizing they are being guided or like led to somewhere in a obvious manner, so yeah, like they obviously, because they give players like the opportunity to look at specific locations or specific areas that enhances the player and storytelling. Why? Because obviously, if I let's say trick the player to look at a specific area, they will realize there is an enemy and they will be ready to the encounter. Where like that will make the gameplay experience a lot better. Whereas if I couldn't see like that enemy in advance, maybe I would be in the middle of the area with I would be in disadvantage, and the enemy would kill me. That something might create frustration if the player like understands that they have been cheated. They haven't been like that. The enemy has not properly been introduced. So it's a very efficient way of helping players without specifically telling them, you have to go there, look at here. Here there is a chest, and so on and so forth. So it's a very powerful technique to use that will have extremely important impact on your games. Okay, let's see. Okay, now we know player guidance is a thing that we can use. That we know that there are techniques to guide the player, but what are those techniques? Let's see one of them, which is color coding. But in order to understand or to know how to properly apply this technique, we need a little bit of biological background, and I'm going to explain how the human eye works in order to know how to take advantage of this technique. Basically, the human eye has the back retina where there are cone cells. Cone cells are the ones in charge of receiving the light from a light source, let's say. There are three types of cone cells, each of which gets excited with different wavelengths, and these wavelengths relate to different colors. In this case, blue, green, and red. As you can see, blue, green, and red should be something we are familiar with, which is the RGB system that all the monitors and televisions use, and that's definitely like, that's not a coincidence either. Like, this is because we imitate the human eye way of working. All right, so we have the cone cells, three types of cone cells, each of which basically receives a different color, red, green, and blue. Once the cones are excited, these signals are sent to the brain to process that information. But how those signals turn into the actual picture, like the colors we all see. Basically, what happens is, like, there are 3 steps. On the first one, the red and green. That is it's calculated the difference between those colors. Then to this difference, we add the difference in intensity, and at the end, we get the result of that, and we basically like make the subtract the blue signals from the blue cone cells, and that gives us like a spectrum of intensities that when we put them all together, there is a result. And as you can see here, like the intensity goes from 0 to 100 depending on the wavelength, and you guys can see that there is a winner on this chart. Who's the winner? Yellow. Yellow is the color that the human eye processes the fastest. And that's because all these cone cells it's the way it's because of this cone cells process that happens on the human eye and the brain. So basically, yellow is our friend. If we wanna draw the player's attention somewhere, we need to use colors to draw their attention. And since yellow is the one the human eye processes the fastest, we should use yellow or a similar color to highlight important elements in an environment, in a level. Like, as if I go back, you'll see that Eternal Flame, it has a yellowish, orangish color, and now you can understand why you read Eternal Flame and you didn't read Twilight Fields, for example. Why? Because you got drawn to that part of the screenshot, and you had, and because it was processed so fast, you had time to read that part. Whereas Twilight Fields, obviously, like it doesn't stand out for multiple reasons, but one of them is because it's in a bluish color. Bluish colors are not the priority on the, let's say, on the human eye to process. Let me see. There are a couple questions. Is player guidance extremely visual communication? Can we use sound, for example? Yes, definitely. You can use sound to guide, to draw the player's attention to anywhere you want. But we need to keep in mind that sound is not a mandatory element on a game. What does that mean? Players can play games without sound. They cannot pay attention to the sound because they are just playing with some friends, just because they are listening to music. So definitely you can use player guidance in sounds, but you cannot rely entirely on sound to guide players, because they might not have the sound on. Based on that information, would you say that the player guidance using color works different for colorblind people? I don't think so. Because there is not a, like, we shouldn't use a unique technique to guide the player, and especially like in color, we know that there is this issue with colorblind people. Then what we, as on the slide you can see, also color contrast can be as good as color picking. Like, for example, here, like obviously, like red is a let's say a higher prior color than blue, but here what we are seeing is the contrast. Why this is standing out is because of the contrast, and that's something we need to use like hand in hand with color picking. I think yellow sticks out even for colorblind people, especially brighter yellows with light values, because that creates contrast. I think there is a kind of I'm not super familiar with colorblind characteristics, but I know there is a type of colorblind people that confuse blue and yellow, and in that case, if you put yellow and blue, they might have some issues. But again, like you can use other techniques to also draw the player's attention, also taking into account that there is colorblind people. All right. So obviously, like here you can see like the color contrast that, for example, Mirror's Edge used very well. Obviously, like they used contrast as a main way of luring the player towards the next area, and because it's such a high paced game, you need to process stuff very quickly, and the way they draw the player's attention is very effective in that way. They, like, as you can see here, like Mirror's Edge had player guidance in mind to create their levels. Orange ball against a green black background could disappear, for example. Yeah, that's right. For example, here, like, this is a screenshot taken from a YouTube video, but I think you guys can sort of tell that this is yellow and Uncharted. I think this is Uncharted 2. Uses yellow to tell players where they can climb. So that's another way of, applying this technique to other games. For example, like obviously here, like there is a let's say the visuals are very, very unique in this sense, because they use very little colors and they play a lot with contrast. But in a realistic game, this can also be applied, and it will be as effective as in other games. All right. Another technique. Now we know we can use color coding to use colors in our advantage, or contrast in our advantage. And now we are gonna learn about leading lines. So basically, like, where this idea comes from, and it's basically like it's just written in our nature. Like, we are taught from since we are kids that to follow lines. We are used to following lines, and that's the way it is. Like, we follow lines to pay on the supermarket, to enter to the theater. We drive through lanes, which are essentially lines. So, like, well, all the indications obviously like follow lines. Like, we are so used to following lines that it's something that we intuitively going to do. So basically, what they are subtle arrows hidden on the environment. They need to be subtle because, again, like, player guidance techniques is something that player should not realize unless they are like obviously familiar with game development, which is like then obvious that they will realize. But regular players should not realize they are being led to somewhere, or to look at a specific location and stuff. So that's why they need to be subtle arrows. Like obviously, like these subtle arrows will help players know where to go. and this is a technique that it's very easy to use in combination with others. For example, like with the color picking or color contrast, is very easy to combine with those. Here you'll see like different examples from being no subtle at all and being super camouflaged, super subtle, super blended in the environment that you will not realize until I tell you so that that's a leading line. This is from Crisis 2, and this one is very obvious. When I saw this frame when I was on the master's degree and obviously like working on my thesis level, which was the thesis topic on my master's degree was about player guidances. And when I saw this, it was very funny because I said, okay, like this is the perfect example of how not to be subtle at all. Then you have this one, which is from Half-Life 2, a bit more blended in the environment, but it's still kind of obvious, like obviously like the arrows are very very specific, and obviously like yes, you can believe there is a graffiti here, but a bit suspicious, to say the least. And here you have a Bioshock, and this one it's the best example I've found of leading lines. As you can see here, like there is the hand and the thunders pointing at the upper floor. It's a very 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 intelligent way of using this technique, and also like it uses contrast and it uses like this intense pink to also like draw the player attention to there, and from there they will look at the left side and to the upper floor, and they will naturally like go investigate there. So it's a very intelligent way and very like elegant way of using this technique. Another technique, light the way. Obviously, what is where this comes from? Again, it all comes to human nature, and human beings are attracted by light. That's our nature. Like if you see a light, you will instantly look at it, and mosquitoes as well. And definitely, like if there is a light source on your level, players will most likely look at it. So if you use light sources to draw the player's attention, they will instantly look at it. They will find whatever you want them to find, and they won't feel like you've told them where to look at, but they will feel, okay, I've discovered something, which is what you want them to feel. Yeah, players are like moths. Yeah. So here's an example, Bioshock. You can see that there is a unique light source that's different from the other ones, and definitely players will instantly look it up, and they will realize, okay, there is like this something there that they need to investigate. So they will go there and they will find something. No one, like there is no UI or anything that tells you go there, which some games do. Like some games they put just a UI with an arrow telling you have to go there. That's fine, but if you wanna create a more immersive experience, like you can accomplish the same without having to rely on that UI. And here I'm gonna show you a real example on Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, which is one of the projects I've worked on at Ubisoft. We were in charge of the remaster. And one of the things I wanted to do is revisit the present day missions. And I wanted to see, like, even if they are linear levels, like this applies to linear levels, and it's very, like, people can think about linear levels as players don't need to be guided because they are linear. That's not true at all. Like, you still need to let them know where to look at, even in a linear game, in a linear level. So yeah. For example, like, this is the New York skyscraper, New York Tower level. There is the player goes to a tower, to skyscraper, and needs to go up. There is a section on the interior, and for example, at this point, like, the left picture is what they had on the original game, and the left side is what I added. Even though if it's obvious that, no, it's not obvious, but obvious, it's, even if it's a linear level and a linear section, here, like, you can go down, like, you can go on top of the vent and reach that hole on the wall, but you can go down because there is something underneath, just to make sure players don't waste time there, because there is nothing. Like, if it were a reward, a treasure chest or something, it could make sense not to draw players' attention to the next area, but to let them explore. Even it would be nice if you put something there to draw the attention to the lower floor, so they can find the treasure chest or something. But in this case, we wanted to keep the momentum, to keep the fast-paced movement, because this section is a parkour section that you chain parkour movements over and over. So the faster the players can see what's next, the better for the experience. So what I did is to add this red light on top of it, so players instantly, like, look at it and see, like, the hole to go through. Farther on that level, there is a climbing section, and you end up reaching this area. This area is quite open, and while there is, like, light sources on this side, which is the side you have to go next, the way this section, the composition of this section leads a bit to confusion, because it gives you, like, two directions to go to. Like, you can see, like, some stuff is telling you to go to the right side, but at the same time, like, this part, like, is telling you to go to that side, which might look interesting. So there is a bit of confusion on where to go next. And because, again, there is nothing to explore there, I wanted to reinforce this side that leads you to the next area. And that's why I added a couple blockers here. So by doing this, it channels the vision towards the light sources, and that creates that gives the message of, okay, that's where the important stuff is. And it removes, like, a little bit the left side idea, the idea of going to the left side. Again, on the same level, you reach this section. It's quite dark, but I think you might see it. You get this section, and the next area is behind this blocker. I don't know why they did that, but it makes no sense to block the access to the next area unless you want them to explore, and that's not the case, because, again, there is nothing out of the main path. So this one was as easy as just moving this blocker to the right side to open up the view for players to see what's next, and by creating a bigger blocker here, which discourage players to looking for other options. So yeah, that's basically the end of the section for player guidances. I don't know I don't know how much time left we have. In fact, we don't have any time left, but I don't know if you guys want to continue. Is it fine to continue? There is still the bonus track 2, which is tips and tricks, different things to talk about related to level design, which are quite interesting, but depending on what Oscar says.
I mean, if it's okay for you, I mean, this is super interesting, Sandro. I mean, it's always great to hear your experience and knowledge. And so, I mean, if you have the time, I mean, how long do you think there is left?
I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, something like that.
So, I mean, let's go. Yeah, if that's okay for you, I mean, let's go.
I don't mind. Like I like talking about these things because I love them. So if people want me to hear a bit more, like I mean, yes, I can continue. Please continue. All right,
go for it.
Let's continue then. All right. Okay, this section, like it's sort of like a sandbox or a toolbox where like you open it and there is a bunch of different topics and different things to talk about related to level design, and because I think they are very useful and people may or may not know about them. So I think it's important to have them, and I like talking about them. So yeah, put them all together and present them like in there is no like logical order. So like this is just random, not random, but you get the idea. Random topics related to LD, and the first one is corridors. I'm going to show you this picture. This is a first-person shooter, fine, and I'm going to tell you what this section is about. So this is the end of the level. Let's say this is the end of the level, and the end of the level is at the end of this street, which is sort of a corridor. Basically, you see the end. You see there are no enemies. You see let's say the side streets are blocked. So basically, the only thing you have to do from here to the end is to walk in a straight line. And then if you present this to me, I'm going to get a bit bored, really bored, in fact. So yeah, like, why do I have, as a player, why do I have to go from that point to the end without nothing else to do? Why do you make me do that? Just let me finish the level here. Like, what is that section adding to the experience? It's adding nothing to it. So here is where we introduce the S curve, let's say like the zigzag, the S line, which is, if you have a corridor, don't make it straight. Let's grab now like the same layout, and let's twist it a little bit. It's the same layout, exactly the same layout, but the street is not in a straight line. What happens with this? Like, we have a street, we have a corridor, but we don't see the end, so we don't know what's behind the church. So as a player, what I think is, okay, I wanna discover what's behind the church. Maybe I have to go to the church. Let me find out what's behind it. And this is something very important for everyone to know. The most important thing on level design is to build curiosity. Like, you need to keep the player curious. You need to let the player be constantly thinking, okay, I want to explore what's next. What's behind that thing? What's on the other side of that door? You need to keep them curious. Like, you have to build curiosity so players get engaged constantly and they keep wanting more and more and more. So, and that's what you accomplish here. Like after the church, there will be the end of the level anyway. But the way they've traversed this area is different. They've been engaged. They have been drawn to explore more, and it's the exact same section, but the experience is completely different. So that would make me happy as a player, and obviously as a level designer. So to sum up this section, basically straight lines, no way. We don't want straight lines. We want zigzag, yes we do. And in order to build this curiosity, like we need to present intermediate goals. Like even if they are not relevant as the church is not relevant. You cannot visit it, but it creates that immediate goal for players to go visit, to get themselves engaged with the next thing to do. And also obviously it's to build the player's curiosity. That it like this this way of building corridors just builds the player's curiosity a lot, and that's what we should be doing every time we can. And obviously there is a bonus track here, just an extra comment. Just keep it wide. Just usually some level designers, especially the least experienced ones, tend to do things super narrow, and when you do stuff too narrow, you constrain a lot the player's possibilities. Just if you have to choose between making a corridor too wide or too narrow, it's better to be slightly wider than slightly narrower, because it gives freedom, it gives a space for players to explore, even if there is nothing to visit. Like for example, on this section, you can see there is the car that is blocking a little bit, but it gives you space to explore, to rotate the camera around. This is a first-person shooter, and the camera is not as relevant. But just imagine this in a third person camera view. It's important in this way to keep it quiet. And you might say, okay, but what if it's a corridor within a building? Let's say you are in a building and there is a corridor. I cannot bend that corridor, because it makes no sense. It doesn't matter. Let's say, I hope you can see the Microsoft Paint I opened. Let's say we have, again, let's see, this is a top-down view. All right, hope you see. Let me know if you're seeing the Microsoft Paint, right? All right, so basically this is a top-down. Obviously, sorry for my painting. I know it's that's why I'm not an artist. Let's say, just imagine. Oops, yeah. Let's imagine this is an elevator, and we have to go from this elevator to this section, whatever it is, or even you need to go from here to here. It doesn't matter. You can now go. This is block. This is block. All right, that's fine. So basically, the elevator doors open. You would have to do this and then this. Obviously, it's kind of a bummer, because there is nothing here. It feels like hard work. I have to just go there, then turn. Obviously, this creates a bit of a doubt, or it builds curiosity for players. But just let's make it even worse. You have to pick up another elevator, which is here. This is the second elevator, and you just need to do this, just a straight line, a plain straight line. nothing really exciting happening here. So instead of just like forcing players to do this, why don't we just say, okay, like there is a blocker here. Something has fall down and it's blocking the way. So players have to go here. Then they realize here there is an opening. Maybe there is even a chest here. Maybe there is a chest or whatever pickup you might think of. Then they can go through. They say, okay, here, like they go here. Now here they might see an enemy or something they really want to pick up, and they have the opportunity to pick it up, and then they move on. There is the experience, like even if there are no pickups, the experience is so different just by adding this deviation that players will experience this section completely different, just because what they saw is, okay, I cannot go through. How do I get to the other side? All right, let me see what's here. You see, like that's an immediate goal, an intermediate goal that they can establish and try to pursue. Okay, they find something else. Okay, let me see. I hope there is no enemies there. Let me try to go through. All right. Oh, wait, there is a pickup, a cool pickup. I can grab. Let me grab it before I continue. The experience is completely different. And yes, you cannot bend the corridor, but you can somehow break it so it's not in a straight line. There are multiple ways of applying this technique. Another one, this one, I mean, this topic is maybe it's more well known by people. It's landmarks. Usually, if I show this picture to you guys, you will probably know what game this is just by looking at this picture. And why is that? Because this is such a unique element in this game that it tells you exactly, first, what game this is, and second, where you are. And that's the goal of landmarks. The landmarks are unique elements that stand out, that you can actually describe with a short sentence that will describe like maybe a whole game, a whole section, a level, a specific area, whatever you need. Obviously, these unique elements need to be easy to read and easy to locate. Obviously, like if I show you like these icons here, you guys can tell exactly what they are, where they are. So it's very important to have these landmarks on your levels, because first, it gives personality to your level. Like obviously, it's easier to say this is the volcano level than this is the level where I have to double jump 3 times and I have to kill 5 enemies. It's very difficult to know what level I'm talking about with the second sentence, but not with the first one. Like if I say this is the volcano level, everyone will instantly know what level is if they have played the game. And also they help locate players themselves within the level area, because obviously, like if I see the volcano in front of me and then I have it on my left side, I know more or less where I am, and I know if I have to go back or I go back and I see it again in front, I say, okay, wait, I've been here because I remember I saw the volcano in front of me, so maybe I went back instead of moving forward. So it in a sense, it's another way of guiding the player. So you can consider landmarks as a player technique in a way. And last but not least, just some quick, I guess, advices or comments. They are just put them together in a slide, because obviously they are advices and they don't create discussion. They are not topics per se, but something that I love to remind people, especially for people who starts on the industry as a level designer. I think it's important to keep these things in mind. The first one is KISS, which stands for keep it simple, stupid. Because as a lot of things, as many things in this life, less is more, and it's better to create simple stuff that people can understand, and then create complex situations based on simple interactions, than just create overcomplicated systems that have a lot of moving pieces, and players have a very hard time to understand, to break down. In the end, again, this comes down to human nature. The way we solve problems is by breaking them down in simpler ones, and finding the interactions between them. So also keep in mind that when designing puzzles, levels, and different challenges. Another one is artists are your best friends, but they will hate you. That will happen. Like it doesn't matter. At some point, they will hate you, because they will see your level and they will say, "How in the world am I going to dress this? What's how this floating ground, this floating piece, how can I justify it with visual meshes?" And then it's important that you guys define a clear pipeline with them before start building levels, so these things you have them contemplated. And the more you communicate with your artist, the better, because that communication will be key to get to the best result possible. Because sometimes, yes, we design levels without having in mind the art side. They come to us then, and they say, "Hey, like how am I supposed to dress this? How am I supposed to change to swap these blocks by something realistic, for example?" So it's important that you guys go back and forth, and you find a cool middle point where you all are happy with the result. Next one is shortcuts will make your life easier. And again, this applies to a lot of industries, or a lot of works, but a lot of jobs. But again, the more shortcuts you know for editors and stuff, the better. Because just imagine having to just stop for a second and think how many times you copy paste an object. It's as simple as that. Just imagine just having to right click and copy, right click and paste instead of Control C, Control V. Just calculate how much time you would lose, and then you will realize how useful shortcuts are. And I know this is very obvious, but people might not be aware of all the shortcuts you can learn in any application or editors. Like, just try to look for, especially for tasks that you need to repeat over and over, try to find if there is a shortcut that would prevent you from wasting time this way. Tile sets might be very handy, but sometimes we won't use them. So I told you, like, okay, like we need to use tile sets. We need to create a useful tile set and use it because blah blah blah. All right, but there are exceptions, as always. There are exceptions for the rules, and in this case, just imagine. Okay, we have a street, and we have let's say like a fountain. Just imagine a fountain that it's very important for the game, and it has a sort of like a unique shape. It is okay, for example, to go to BSP or to grab an artist, or if you can do it yourself with 3D Max or Maya, to create a very basic shape of that fountain, for example, and use it. But that's very exceptional. Like you don't usually need it. You usually, it's okay like to put a cylinder there because that will fulfill the duty. But sometimes, like if it's a special case, yes, you can be more specific, but that's a very exceptional thing. This is very important. Don't take feedback too personal. Like as long as the feedback is constructive. I know like everyone gets too attached to their ideas, to their levels, because obviously it's like their babies, and obviously like they get very attached to them. And when people criticize, let's say, or give feedback, they might feel, oh, they are attacking my work. That's not it. If it's constructive feedback, what they want is to get the same as you. They want to get the best result, and in order to do so, what you have to be is open-minded, understand where the reasoning behind their feedback comes from, and just to if there is something you can do, like to improve your level, you need to be welcome. You need to receive it in a nice way, because it will make your level a lot better, which is in the end what you and your company wants. And last but not least, just a recommendation. There are a bunch of books, but this one I liked a lot because it explains a lot of elements of level design and game design in a very practical way, and in a very easy way that it makes it easier to read. Like there are some books that I don't like because they are very theory oriented, and that's not how you in the end are going to work. You need pragmatic stuff, practical stuff. And this one, I think it's very cool and does it very well. Level Up: The Guide to Great Video Game Designs by Scott Rogers. And I think that's it. If you guys wanna ask some questions, it's the right time.
Thank you, Sandro.
I know we are over time, but
I'm just
anyway,
worried.
we can.
I'm just worried about you.
No, not at all. It's okay. Like I'm happy to answer some questions.
So we have a question in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Does that mean that if you are both the level designer and level artist in a team, you get to hate yourself? Probably that's how it works. No, if you are the level designer and the level artist, you obviously like you're gonna deal with it in a much lighter way than if you have to interact with someone else. How do you plan for lighting in scenes and the creation of guidelines when white boxing? Okay, yeah, that's something I didn't mention, but you don't the player guidance techniques are not applied until the very end of the game. Not the game, sorry, the level. Why is that? Because you need all the art, all the lighting setup, everything in the game, in the level, excuse me, in order to identify where players might get lost, where you need to draw the player's attention to a specific area or not. You cannot do it in white box because obviously there is nothing to guide the player towards a specific location. So yeah, like that comes at the very end of the level. And how do you plan for lighting? I mean, technically I'm not required to plan for lighting because there is someone which is a lighting artist that does that for me. But I might take it into account. Like for example, all right, like I'm gonna set the time of day at midday because I think it's better for either for narrative, for like visibility. Maybe I don't care or it's not important. Like that's not something unless it's a game that lights and shadows are really important. Level designers don't usually need to think or plan lighting.
I think you have been already answering questions during the whole session. Please, audience, show some clapping for Sandro for sharing his knowledge and experience, giving such useful tips for level designing. Again, another question, last question.
All right. Do you have any specific considerations for strategy or turn-based level design? This one is kind of tricky because depending on, it in the end it comes down to what kind of genre, what specific gameplay you have on those games, because for example, just a strategy game I can come up with is or I can think of is Age of Empires. That one, level design is more about what resources you give the player and where you put them based on the initial, for example, what's it called? Cities. I cannot come up with the word, but where they start building their town or the city around. It's more about where you put those resources to incentivize the challenge of fighting for those resources than anything else. Like it's not as important as where I put this set of trees, for example, and stuff like that.
Well, now, unfortunately, we came to the end. Again, thank you very much, Sandro. It has been a pleasure. I invite all audience to follow GameVision on social media, because we are organizing more sessions like this in a monthly basis. So, we hope to see you again here, Sandro, with level design level 2.